Okay, so 3 modes of awareness. This particular exercise, we do it to become acquainted with awareness itself. By initially, the first exercise will just observe whatever's coming up in the mind and whatever is coming up in experience. So you'll close your eyes and I'll tell you to just notice whatever is going on. So if sounds are predominant in your experience right now, like cars moving by or the wind, you would notice that. If you are having thoughts arising, you would notice whether they're mental images or thoughts of an auditory nature, like talking to yourself or hearing someone speaking to you in the mind, or a memory of that. Whatever comes up in the mind stream, if a feeling in the body becomes predominant, you would notice that. Wherever your mind goes or wherever your attention goes, you're just going to notice it in the first exercise. The purpose of the first exercise is to see very clearly that attention in this particular exercise, and most of the time, is directed outwardly. So if you were to have an arrow to illustrate that, the arrow would be pointed outward. So outward from the body, or outward from where the sense of you is. So noticing what's arising in the senses, whatever's there in immediate experience. This outward direction of attention is generally where how attention is functioning for most people. It's so that we can be in response to the environment, deal with situations that are happening in life, and communicate. Most of our attention is being directed outward. So this exercise is just to illustrate that direction of attention and to notice what's arising in immediate experience. One of the other names for this exercise can be thought witnessing. So observing the arising and passing of thought, or of experiences in the mind. So thought appears, image appears, it arises, it passes, feeling arises, it passes. Consciousness is noticing thought, awareness. There's awareness and there's thought that is arising and passing, but the awareness is not actually arising and passing. It's thought that is arising and passing. One of the other purposes of the first exercise, if you were to do it more, is to see that the you, the me, the I, is not actually thought. It is able to observe thought which arises and passes. So this is one of the functions of the first exercises. Mode number 2, exercise number 2. The direction of attention will change. So compared to the first one, where the direction of attention was outward, an arrow pointed outwards, the direction of attention will now be pointed inwards. So it's a reversal, it's an inward turning. The common phrase for this particular exercise is awareness of awareness. So it's a subtle turning inward to actually observe and notice the nature of awareness itself. So in the first exercise, we're noticing content, that which arises and passes. Second exercise, we're noticing the container for that which arises and passes. So we're noticing awareness itself in the second exercise. If you're thinking, what does that mean? What does he mean by that? It's a little confusing. If you were to consider the sense of me, the you, the I, it may take more familiarity with the first exercise before this second one is clear. But most of you, if you've done meditation and work like this before, just have the sense of looking and of noticing the observer, witnessing the witness, noticing the observer. These are all words for the same thing. The fundamental awareness that notices thought, that notices experience, you're noticing that which is most fundamental. So in Zen, they call this the patriarch. And it's a reference to when people come into a home, guests come into a home, the patriarch greets them. But the patriarch is always standing in the room, although guests and numerous guests come and go, they come and leave, but the patriarch remains the witness to all those that are coming and leaving through the room. That's exactly what we're referring to here. The you-ness, the observer, the quote unquote experiencer, the sense of that is what we mean by the patriarch. So second exercise is awareness of awareness. Attention is slightly, gently, of course, directed internally. So this exercise may be more, you may notice more feeling, more things that are closer to the heart. So the first exercise is very easy to notice senses and sounds, but the second can be quite introspective. So this practice is also called self-inquiry. If anyone has experience with Vedanta or with Zen, it's the same function of asking the question, who am I? Or what am I? But not to get an actual answer, just to support the mind in its inward turning. This is the purpose of self-inquiry, to become acquainted with this fundamental awareness. Initially, the fundamental awareness is attached to a sense of I. So we call it me-ness or you-ness. When you turn the mind in on itself, there could still, there can, and especially if you're new to this practice, it's very much going to feel like just me, whatever your name is, Chris, Paul. It's just going to feel like you, the silent you. And so the awareness is attached initially to this sense of self. Through this practice, that exact attachment and that exact notion that awareness is purely and entirely a you, that reference point gradually changes and undergoes transformation, which is the point of self-inquiry. The chain or the structures of identification begin to loosen and transform through witnessing. So that's awareness of awareness, this more fundamental beingness that is there, initially attached to an I. Later, let's see. The third exercise is the uncontrived release. So the first one, compared to the first two, first one, attention is directed outward. Second one, attention is directed inward. The third one, you're neither directing attention outward nor inward. You're just leaving the mind completely as it is. So in an unconditioned state, I call it resting in release. So here, you're allowing whatever is happening to happen. So this exercise, I'd say one of the main things that comes up for this third surrenderedness, this third mode, which is resting and release, is the tendency to have to do something. So most of the time, and in most, probably a lot of your meditation practice, there's a very clear sense of doing something. You sit down, you meditate, you see the meditation object, you're doing the meditation, you're focusing on it. It's all doing. And through more gentler and gentler forms of doing, you can have stillness, and the peace and benefits of meditation start to arise. In this third mode, we are relinquishing entirely any effort to do anything at any level, in any way, in any form. Total abandonment. So the third exercise, you just drop everything. And just be there. So what can happen is, from this third exercise, since you are totally releasing control, is that the mind starts running. The amount of thought can seem to be more prevalent. And you can have the experience, or you can have the perception that you might not be doing it right, or that there's too many thoughts that are arising, or the mind is just too distracted, is too caught in content, as opposed to for example, the second exercise. The function of this one is to familiarize ourselves with getting out of the way, and with not doing or directing the meditation or the experience. So for stillness, certainly, depending on the practitioner, but for stillness, generally, what is practiced would be awareness of awareness. So in the Tibetan tradition, awareness of awareness is taught as a shamatha practice, or samatha in Pali. So that means calmness practice, practices that lead to stillness, and eventually to the deep states of meditation called samadhi. Whereas they would describe the third mode, that would be described as just natural awareness, rigpa or mahamudra. which may or may not lead to the types of samadhis that come from pure stillness. So in the third exercise, it's normal to have content. What's happening, what's supposed to happen is that the demarcation line, separation between the observer and content dissolves, and all experience becomes one seamless wave, one inseparable wave. That is even neither arising nor passing. That concept is even gone. There's just one frame, this frame of experience, totality of experience, the next frame, the next moment of the totality of experience. This opens up through the third exercise, through the non-doing and the complete surrender. And I want to make a final point on surrender before we demonstrate these exercises with Pat and Michael. So surrender, when I use the word surrender and the word release, so surrender and release, both of those words are actual doings. It's a mental action to have whatever tension is there in the body, whatever holding on you're doing in the mind, to intentionally relax and drop it. That's an action. It's like letting go of your hand and something falls out of your hand. It required volition to initially let go of the hand. So surrender and release is an act of the will. What we're going for is that awareness and that sense of being released. It's the state or the sense of openness that is there immediately after the release, immediately after the initial dropping and the surrender, that openness. In some meditation practices and in some traditions, they measure how many minutes or how many seconds you can remain attentive for on an external object or even on an internal object. You'd see an image in the mind's eye. Excuse me. You'd see an image in the mind's eye, and you would see an image in the mind's eye, or a candle flame, for example, and you'd set a timer, and you see how long you can, be attentive to that flame or that image. So here, if you wanted to later, you can see how long you can rest in this openness. How long can your stomach be relaxed for before it tenses up again? How long can you rest in this release before you find that tension reasserts itself, either through distraction or just on its own? We'll find that in this practice and in meditation in general, we'll relax or release, just resting there. And then 5 minutes later, or maybe even before that, the tension has reasserted itself. The mind's become, it's gotten distracted with one thing, and come back to awareness, relax again. And it'll be like that throughout the session. The presence is there, awareness is there, you're resting. And then some memory of something, I don't know, toast or conversation you had yesterday takes up the predominance of your attention, and you'll notice the body gets a little tense just from that distraction. Release, and just be in awareness again. So that specific instruction was more so for everyone who's done this already. So for if you're new, that particular part may not make as much sense, but the rest and the release, the resting, that's exactly what we're going for. The release and the surrender, that's all a volitional thing. So you initially drop something, what's there immediately after? In releasing and letting go of everything, what remains? Awareness remains. So when you get clear on this and it becomes very obvious, awareness will be there. Awareness is recognized, whether you're surrendering or whether you're letting go or not. It's like initially there's a sense that you drop everything and then the awareness is recognized, but the recognition can be there will be there even within activity and within intentional doing. It just initially, it may take like a releasing and a dropping of all doing to recognize what you fundamentally are, at least in this moment, which is awareness. So for everyone who's sat with me for quite some time already, awareness is attached still to the sense of I, and if you just rest in that solidity of the I, the invisible I structure begins to thinner, and this awareness is experienced as independent of that sense of me, and quite a bit of freedom begins to ensue from that. So we'll start with the 3 exercises and demonstrating them. Everyone else, you can just start sitting because we're about to hit the 30-minute mark. So you can get the most out of this session time. You can just close your eyes and start meditating. But for Patrick and Michael, I'll guide them through the 3 modes, and it only takes 10 minutes, and then we'll all just sit in silence afterwards. So. All right, Patrick, Michael, let's begin. So we'll do each mode, and then I'll ask each of you what that exercise was like, what came up, what happened, and then we'll proceed to the next. This is pretty fast. So again, if everyone wants to hear this and go through it with us, you're more than welcome to. If you want to just mute, turn the sound off for the next 45 minutes until the loving kindness portion, by all means, you can do that as well. So let's begin. All right, so exercise number 1. Let's close our eyes and can settle in the chair that you're sitting in or on the meditation cushion. And for the next couple of minutes, just notice what's arising, what's there in immediate experience. What's here? Are you noticing mental images? Are there feelings, sounds? So just notice whatever is present. A few more moments where not trying to make the mind still or trying to have any kind of experience. We're just noticing what's there, what's here. Okay, so this concludes the first exercise. Everyone else can keep their eyes closed, but Um, Patrick, Michael, can either of you share what this first mode was like?
I was just noticing everything that's happening around me, the refrigerator running and then not running, somebody walking their dog in the courtyard and the dog barking. I can notice that my neighbor to my left is awake and moving around. There's a tendency for my thoughts to also want to go to the future or to conversations that I've had, to things that are actually not this moment.
Okay, great. So noticed sounds, noticed impulses as well. Good. Patrick, how was it for you?
Yeah, I had a similar experience, noticing sounds, um, sensations, some mental images. That's pretty much it. Yeah, like I noticed the tension in my jaw, um, where my body's making contact with the cushion, the sensation of the air on my skin. And then there were a few images that kind of came through, and I just noted them.
Okay, perfect. So similar sense perceptions, feelings. Perfect. So the whole point of this was just to illustrate the direction of our attention and how that direction of noticing is outward in this particular mode. So we'll shift gears and going internal now. So you're going to notice that which was noticing in the first exercise. So noticing the noticer, awareness of awareness. So let's do that. Let's close our eyes. So here, let's notice the observer. Whatever that is, if there's a sense of me or I attached to it or not. You can relax and just rest in this awareness of awareness. subtle inward look. Now notice if this basic awareness has any tangible qualities. Is it form or without form? A few more moments here. Okay, concludes exercise number 2, mode 2. Michael, Patrick, how was this second mode, and what was it like compared to the first mode that we did?
It's a bit different because I still had some awareness of things like, oh, there's somebody making noise in the hallway, but my attention was more focused on my reaction to that. It was very peaceful. There were times that I, like brief moments of just being. But I could also observe myself like trying to figure out what I'm going to say to you when you ask me and stuff like that. Yeah, it's quite different from the first one.
Okay, would you say it was a bit more internal than the first one?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
and
good.
more peaceful.
Yes. So this the key word that you used here was beingness, and also peaceful. So this inward orientation for that exercise, the awareness of awareness, peace and beingness are the words that most people use to describe that. So done this exercise with many people, and I would say that the majority of them like exercise number 2 the most, because when when awareness is aware of itself, there's like this automatic stillness effect and beingness that begins to emerge. So that's exactly what we were going for. All right, Patrick, how was number 2 compared to number 1?
I found this one to be challenging. It was a bit confusing to me to, like, I was noticing the same things I was noticing in the first portion, and then I was attempting to notice who or what was noticing. So my strategy for that was to like zoom out and like observe myself as a body or something like that. So I was like, who's observing? And I don't know, I was thinking maybe if I were to imagine it was the body, that might be kind of like a step in the right direction, although I know that's not the final answer, of course, but that was the strategy that I went to immediately. And I found myself a bit kind of off balance, not really knowing like how to observe the observer, because I couldn't like really find the observer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's not something that can be found.
Well, I was trying really hard.
so you got it. You got the function of the second exercise as well. So the point, one of the points is that the observer is not tangible the same way that thought is. So when you were having this image of the body and you were having this this zooming out experience that you were doing, that may have all been because when you were looking for the observer, you were actually looking for a something, like an actual thing that you could pinpoint. But the observer is not, the awareness is not something that can be pinpointed. It's not tangible like a thought. So, and it's not tangible like a feeling. It's just awareness. So I had a student as well that did this, and she came back after 2 weeks and she's like, I've been trying for 2 weeks and I can't find the observer. That's the whole point. There's nothing there to find. So when you if you understand that it's just the observing itself, that's sufficient. You can just relax in that, because you can keep looking for this observer and it will not, something tangible will not be found. Rest assured. It's just a way to get familiar with what is doing the looking, or what is looking, and what is observing. And it's just it's not a tangible thing. So if this exercise was a bit, didn't really know how to do it, you can continue to do this, to do mode 2, but for you, mode 1 might be most appropriate. And we have a classmate here, Robin, actually, he did a lot of mode 1, this thought witnessing, and you end up getting the same, it ends up leading to the same place, which is that the experiencer, the fundamental and basic awareness itself becomes very clear, even if you're just noticing thought. because eventually everything slows down and you have less content that's arising. And then the container for that content, which is awareness, becomes very clear. So you end up getting to the same place, but for sure mode 2 can produce more stillness because that peace factor is there. So now we're going to transition to exercise 3, and this is the total release exercise. So for both of you, Pat, Michael, do I have your attention now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, have your attention. Okay. So now that your attention is present, let's say 20 minutes ago, would you agree that it wasn't necessarily there, but now right here, it's present? Correct or incorrect?
Sure, it's present now.
Correct.
My attention is on you.
Okay. So that awareness, this attention that just turned on as soon as I said, do I have your attention? This is the natural awareness that we're cultivating in the meditation, or that we're resting in the meditation. I don't want to forget the word cultivation. This is it. It's just this simple recognition. It's just this. It was as easy as just that that attention turning on, whereas 20 minutes ago, or when you woke up, was not wakeful like this, or the presence or the recognition of the awareness wasn't there, but now it is. So in this third exercise, just rest and drop, let go of everything. Don't do anything at all for this exercise. And you may be thinking, oh, if I don't do anything, just gonna like wander in thought. Doesn't matter. In this one, don't do anything. There's no expectations for what the meditation is supposed to be. No expectations or concepts of what's supposed to happen. None of that. Just be here. You have complete permission to just be here. Give yourself permission to just for once not do anything at all. Okay, so close your eyes. Just let everything be. Let thought be as it is. Let the body be as it is. The breath, everything. Just let everything be. Wondering or questioning. Just let it be. Leave everything as it is. Surrender and rest and release. A few more moments. And this concludes mode 3. So how is this? How is this in comparison to the first 2?
Found this one to be difficult as well. I was noticing that I was trying to do being. I was like, how do I do that? And I was just noticing all the things, and the most simple place I could rest in was just like these like waves of noticing the breath and kind of maybe having slight moments of just not noticing anything. But it was hard to not be noticing. There wasn't a ton of thought, but I was like I was efforting to like be, and that was kind of getting in the way.
Wow, but you noticed there wasn't much thought arising.
Yeah, and there wasn't a ton of thought in the second one either. It was more just like like I was noticing things, like I was noticing sensation, I was noticing thought, just kind of like observing things. Yeah.
So you found difficulty in not doing anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, we could see the doingness as like this bundle, because our brains and our energy and nervous system is so used to doing something in spiritual practice that even the notion of not doing anything is like, it's like it doesn't compute, right? So when we try it, all we experience is tension and that impulse to want to do. So moving forward for this specific exercise, and I think also for meditation in general, gradually, with more relaxation and with more letting go, this the strength of this impulse to do is going to become less and less solid. It's like maybe you've meditated for like 1,000 or a few thousand hours at this point, so your brain is very used to doing something. So when, as you learn to just, be more and rest and release more, that sense of having to do and that sense of controlling the meditation, it will loosen up. But the thing that is good, or that is important to note, is that for you, there's not much content in the way. You're not having like a lot of cycling thoughts and all of this. So at least that isn't a thing. But the solidity of the doer and the impulse to do, next time you meditate, or when we close our eyes and we sit in silence for the rest of the class, have the intentional at first surrender of that. Like, actually, in a way, tell yourself, even if it doesn't make sense, right? Have the moment where you're like, okay, I'm just gonna drop this, even if it's for a second. So I'm gonna give you a couple of pointers on this too. When you do this, relax your abdomen. So like release all the tension in your stomach. Just let your stomach be relaxed and like open. And anywhere else, if you have tension, or you're doing like a unconscious holding on, could be anywhere. It could be the chest, could be the lower abdomen, could even be like the perineum, the anus, whatever. Actually just release and rest there. And you'll notice that physical letting go helps with the letting go that happens in the mind. So that may be a point that that's useful. Just drop it, relax the muscles, let it be. If they retense, a minute later or whatever, that's fine. The point here is to really get used to not being in the way, not being the controller, and may not be something that happens, on day 1 or even on day 10. But I think that this particular thing be extremely incredible. So Michael, how is number 3 compared to 2 and 1? Oh, did you already answer this?
No.
Okay.
It was almost like going to a place like where you're starting to fall asleep, and you're just like, you're still breathing and you notice your pulse, but everything's like very very quiet, and it's maybe a bit easier than the others because you're not trying to do anything.
Perfect. So the because you're not doing anything, the only other time most of us are used to that is as we go to sleep. We just rest there, and just lay there. This is exactly like that. It's just that if the sleepiness becomes too much of a factor, it will begin to infringe or actually be a hindrance to the clarity of that awareness that's naturally there. But so how were your perceptions in this one? Did you find that there was as much peace in this exercise, or not so much?
Yeah, there was peace. It was almost like the second exercise was like directing me to where I was going to go in the third. But then like you have to let go to actually go there. Something like that. Because there was a lot of that peace and beingness and more just like breathing, like that almost like sleepy state of yeah, sorry, I don't know if I'm explaining this very well. But yeah, I can see why we did the other two exercises first.
Exactly. So the reason that many of the traditions teach primarily exercise 2 is that without clarity on the awareness itself, when you do the third exercise, it's just a full identification with content. So that's why we do all 3, but generally speaking, most traditions teach the second one, and then they introduce the third one like way at the far end of the development of the second practice, because then you release any doing, you release any volition, and that natural awareness and noticing is just there on its own. But if we're not as familiar with the noticing, then when we do the third exercise, it's a content train. It's just more and more and more stuff, or we'll drift off into sleep. But wanted to do the third to illustrate the actual non-doing and the just letting everything be. So if you have the noticing, or you're in awareness in this moment, this natural attention is here, and then you have this this non-doing, just letting everything be. That's a great this is the basic for any meditation that you want to do ever. Doesn't matter what the technique is, doesn't matter what tradition or context it's in, because this is the fundamental base of experience. When you drop and release everything, this is what remains. This awareness is what remains. So, and it's what has always been there. When we say, the only time we say you weren't aware, or you lost awareness, it's almost equated to consciousness itself. It's like you only use the phrase you lost consciousness if you passed out, or if you were sleeping, you would say that consciousness, you have no recollection of that. So this sense of you, the sense of I, this awareness is always there. What we're doing in meditation is just recognizing it. That's it. That recognition of this most fundamental awareness. In Zen and Vedanta, it is the main practice. So initially attached to a sense of self, attached to a body, a sense attached to a doer. But as there's more surrender, as there's more familiarity and practice of this, what unfolds is the awareness is actually independent of any images. It's independent of the image of the body, independent of the image of Michael, independent of the image of Ryan and of memories and perceptions. Initially, that may not be clear and that may not make sense because the mind, the brain, the body is predominantly accustomed to being identified with content up to this point. So that's why when I say, look at the observer, all you see is thought. All you notice is feeling. It's because that is what has predominantly been there and is what is there most of the time. But as you do this practice and as you continue, that which is beyond thought, that which thought arises within, will become clear. So I hope the three of you or the two of you got something important over these three exercises. Hopefully there were some gems, at least within one mode. But either way, in any of these practices that you do or meditations that you do, awareness is fundamental. It is the fundamental. So I hope the rest of our class either just sat through meditation and didn't listen to that, or if they did, I hope they enjoyed it. So with the time that we have left, whichever one of these three that you gravitated towards most, you can do that. Do it, right? You could do that in this class or in the next 15 minutes. And then at the end, we'll just do loving kindness and really come into the heart and generate and share this love for this loving kindness for everyone in the class and all the people that are near and dear to us, and dedicate it to all beings. So we'll just sit in silence now. You can choose whichever mode you feel drawn to, and just rest for the next 15 minutes or so. We can close our eyes and let's begin. I'll be silent until the guiding of the loving kindness. Now begin with the sharing of loving kindness. Just bring awareness into the heart center. And let's begin with this intention. A prayer. Okay, be filled with loving kindness. May loving kindness flow through me. And let's begin with the first object of loving kindness, which is ourselves. Loving kindness is the joy of wishing well for ourselves or for others. The object, what we're resting our awareness on, is the goodness in the heart of the person, the wholesomeness in your heart that manifests as your willingness to help or love others. You can sense this as a feeling, a subtle essence, or you can allow your imagination to provide images that reflect this goodness. And now have the following intentions. Wish for yourself, may I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering. May I awaken. Envelop the body, the mind, Envelop it in awareness and loving kindness. If you wish, you could use a mirror image of yourself in the mind's eye. Say to yourself, may I be safe. May I be happy. Healthy and freed of suffering. May I awaken. Whichever of these phrases is allowing for the most loving kindness to arise, you can just use those phrases. For those of you using a mirror image of the self, the body, say to yourself, may you be safe. May you be happy and healthy. May you be freed from suffering, free from pain. Embracing you, wish, may you awaken. Let's extend and expand the heart to encompass everyone in this room, everyone in the place you live in. And here before you, you can see all those people that are near and dear to you, living or passed on. Family members, parents, friends, teachers, pets. Sense the purity, the wholesomeness in their hearts. Embrace them in loving kindness and say to them, may you all be safe. May you be happy and healthy. May you live at ease, free from suffering, free from pain. And may you all awaken. May you all be happy, healthy, and free. Extend the heart further, radiating loving kindness before you, behind you, above you, below you, left and right. Like the sun radiating in every direction. Envelop the entirety of your city in your imagination and your heart, reaching all the beings here in the waters, on the land, in the sky. Wish for all beings here in this city, may they be safe. May they be happy and healthy. May they live at ease, free from suffering, free from pain. And may they all awaken. Sense the heart expanding in every direction, melting all boundaries. Extending this loving kindness further to envelop the state. You can see the state or province you live in covered in light. And further extend it to envelop the entirety of the country you live in. Sensing the hearts of countless beings here. May all beings in this country be safe. May they be happy and healthy. May they live at ease, free from suffering, free from pain. May they awaken. And extend your heart to embrace and envelop the whole world. Every country, every city and town, every ocean, desert and mountain range, every forest. All the beings here. Sensing their hearts and the heart of the world radiate loving kindness through the entirety of the earth. May all beings in this world be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy, free from suffering, free from pain. May they all awaken. Extending the heart beyond the bounds of the earth. Radiate loving kindness to the very edge of perception and imagination as far as it can go. Sharing loving kindness with all the beings in exalted realms, Brahma and Deva worlds. Who are still subject to suffering. And to all the beings in realms of misfortune and great pain. To all beings in all directions, in all places, in all times. And to all the masters and enlightened ones. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May they be freed from suffering, from pain. May all beings awaken. May they all be free. Now you can release all intention, release everything, and just rest in receptivity. By the power of the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, and all the great masters. May all the meditators here be blessed with happiness, with health. May all of your wishes be fulfilled. May you be protected and guided on the path of awakening. May you all realize perfect enlightenment and total peace in this very lifetime. Satu, satu, satu. Thar, couple minutes remaining. You can keep your eyes closed or open them whenever you feel ready. I'll read a couple quotes from Ramana Maharshi. Question: what is this awareness, and how can one obtain and cultivate it? Answer: you are awareness. Awareness is another name for you. Since you are awareness, there is no need to attain or cultivate it. All that you have to do is to give up being aware of other things. That is of the not self. If one gives up being aware of them, then pure awareness alone remains. And that is the self with a capital S. And finally, questioner: how shall I reach the self? Ramana: there is no reaching the self. If self were to be reached, it would mean that the self is not here and now, and that it is yet to be obtained. What is got afresh will also be lost, so it will be impermanent. What is not permanent is not worth striving for. So I say the self, capital S, is not reached. You are the self. You are already that. The fact is, you are ignorant of your blissful state. Ignorance supervenes and draws a veil over the pure self, which is bliss. Attempts are directed only to remove this veil of ignorance, which is merely wrong knowledge. The wrong knowledge is the false identification of the self with the body and the mind. This false identification must go, and then the self alone remains. Therefore, realization is for everyone. Realization makes no difference between the aspirants. This very doubt, whether you can realize, and the notion, quote, I have not realized, are themselves the obstacles. Be free from these obstacles also. So we went far over the hour and a half mark, but if there are any questions, you can feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I've kept you much longer than I expected.
I have a very happy puppy here.
That's great.
Yeah, it's noticeable.
Referring to yourself or an object? I'm kidding.
A real puppy.
Who does it belong to?
My sister.
Oh, okay.
Was playing.
So cute.
Oh, that's adorable. Well, how was that for all of you?
I
I'm
felt
just gonna assume it was great. Robin, what were you saying?
I felt it was good to repeat the question, the basics, the instructions that you went over, and from my personal journey, I feel maybe it's necessary for me to go back again to technique 1 on a regular basis, like observing my thoughts, because yeah, it just feels like that. I don't remember why, but I got that from when I listened and when I sat now, because because lately I've been falling down a bit from my, not falling down, but I had some great improvements, and now I got some challenges with the meditation again, and I have to keep at it. And yeah,
Yeah, it has its cycles, right? So it has its seasons. There's periods where things are very clear, things are very still, it seems, and then other periods where there's more challenges and there's more intensity when it comes to experiences and in life as well. So yeah, just keep it up. I've known you for many years, and I've never known you to meditate this much. So I definitely commend you on that. So
Thanks. And on that point, just shortly on the lengths of meditation, I feel that lately I've been also cutting down on the minutes to like only doing 30 to 40 minutes each time. And now when I
Only.
set, you know, yeah, maybe only in a perspective, but now when I sat longer on this lesson, I think past an hour maybe, I felt that my mind came back to that state that I just lost for a while now.
Good. Yeah, I recommend this for everyone if you do have time throughout your week, at least once a week, try a long sit. So on Sundays, Yasmin does both of my classes. So she's basically in a chair for 3 hours or on the floor for 3 hours. And it's not like a volition, like push yourself for 3 hours thing. That's not what it is. Dedicate some time during the week to do a longer sit, and for that period, you're just being there. This is not a boxing match, you're just sitting there. You're not doing anything. That's it. And when I did about several months ago, I did these longer sits with Paul, and the first one was like 3 hours, and Paul was like, how can I sit for 3 hours? It's like, how is that possible? I can't do it. And then I was like, you'll be fine, trust me, just sit there and don't do anything, and I'll be with you. So every time you like get this impulse to need to do something, just relax. You're just being there. It's not a big deal. And first day he did like 3 hours, and then the second day we sat for 6 hours continuously. I mean, of course we moved our legs, but didn't get off of a seat for that many hours. And it's because if you're in the frame of like, this is a struggle, you're never gonna make it. It's just it's just gonna be torture. But if you have the frame that like, I'm just sitting here, otherwise I'd be watching Netflix or doing something. It's just, this time is just to sit there and not do much, and it'll be much easier to do a longer sit. So if you can if on average you sit for 15 minutes a day, do 30 once a week. If on average you sit for 30 minutes a day, once a week, do an hour. If on average you sit for an hour, then double that, at least for one sit during the week. So you get used to that time where it does take time for content to slow down. It does take time for things to simmer down, especially if we're still new. So a lot of the kind of, oh, I'm not getting there, oh, it's not happening yet, it just comes down to the fact that you don't have that many hours on the cushion yet, or you don't have that many hours in this practice yet. Your mind is still wired to how it operates and functions in the world. So the shift from that to this, it takes time. So. All right, any questions? Anyone?
Can I ask a quick question? Ryan, just something that popped up as I was dropping
Yes.
in. I think the answer is obvious, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless. Just thinking of loss. Does one, when they're meditating and they get to a certain point, also feel grief over loss of, I'm just going to use the language to try to tease out what I'm going to do, loss of ordinary consciousness or the mundane? I mean, I've
Yes.
been finding myself really sort of struggling with obviously letting go, but letting go of as I'm on this path and I'm practicing more, sort of letting go of, again, ordinary states of consciousness. That's just the language I'm using, but just, a dying of the self. I mean, however, but just really, I don't know. It has not been talked about. At least I haven't seen it by, Buddhist practitioners. I mean, it's the bliss experience is always emphasized, but when I had that today, then I literally was feeling that today and really dropping in and the awareness of awareness. And then I come back to everyday states of living, and it's harder, not harder, but just there's just a grief around um, um, moving away from that. So I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. 100%. There's actually a person, one of the people sitting here with us, who said, at what point did you know that you could never go back to how you used to be, or to how life used to be? And how do you reconcile that? How do you deal with that? Absolutely. The bliss is emphasized because that's what gets people going. The love is emphasized because that's what gravitates people towards the path. But the dissolution and this vanishing of the me that is happening, it's like, if a person is in your life, let's say we can remember a partner that we were with for many years, and then that person leaves and that relationship ends, there's like a vacuum inside your heart now that that person is gone, and there's grief that happens because a person was there, and now that person's not. The same applies for the sense of self and for the ego. The sense of self, the me, is a structure. It's actually a feeling. When I think or like when I notice and I sense the me, it's a feeling. It's a knowingness, but it's also a feeling that is very characteristic. It's like the signature, the flavor of the particular you that you are, David, Paul, Brian. And as this process continues, that flavor becomes less perceptible, and that structure begins to crumble. And in its crumbling and in the imperceptibility of that you, there's a sense of loss. There's a sense of grief. So it's absolutely a thing, 100%. It's some people call it, there's different terms for it. I think it's just the process. I don't give a specific name to it, but some people would call it dark night of the soul, or in Buddhism, in the commentaries, there's a 16 stages of insight, and after about stage 4, which I think is called knowledge of arising and passing, there's these very intense stages, and one of them is called dissolution. Another is fear, for example. And all these stages culminate to what's called desire for deliverance. And that's what really cultivates a person, or catapults a person further into awakening. So yeah, you're having these, expanded, very more fundamental experiences of consciousness. And so there's a reconciliation and a process an integrating process that will happen between that and your ordinary life. But that's not an easy process, and a lot of people here in this room have gone through that or are going through it. So there's this sense that your spiritual life is one way and one thing, and your ordinary life and your worldly life is another. And there's like this separation between the two, between the true self and the ordinary consciousness, the me, and the life that it engages in. So one of the critical lessons for me, or one of the critical insights and unfoldings, was that line, that boundary and barrier between me and the self with a capital S, or between spiritual life and worldly affairs, that demarcation line exists only in the mind. So when it became very clear that like that line is just based on two concepts. One, the first concept is that something is spiritual. You have the spirit, there's the spiritual, and then there's everything else, or there's the worldly. So everything that's spiritual is in one frame, seen through one lens, and everything that's worldly is seen through another lens. And the dissonance between these two frames and these two lenses causes suffering. So at some point I just dropped the lenses and I stopped creating. I stopped having the concept of what's spiritual and what's worldly. And really there's actually no difference between spiritual and worldly. They're just elaborations that we make, we place on phenomena and on experience. So that split, that initially, the split actually that fuels the search and fuels further expansion, is eventually surrendered. And that finally dissolves this, it dissolves the dissonance at least. There may still be grief, like if there's still absence, there's nothing that can be done about that. That just has to be felt, and that just has to be lived with until it passes. But at least that separation, that could be given up 100%. It's enforced by two concepts: what's spiritual and what's worldly. You abandon those, the split's gone.
I just add, the Zen teaching, leave the mountaintop and go back into the marketplace once awakened. I'd say
Yep.
you're already in the marketplace. like the teaching you offered at the end there. There's no place to go. You're already there.
Yeah, I mean, at least when like reactive patterns are not running, I could definitely say that I am the marketplace, right? Because everyone is. But there's degrees, even in the at the far end of the awakened pond. There's people way further along than me. So, but I hope what I'm sharing and everything I've been saying to all of you these last months has been helpful. I know that for some of you it's triggered difficulties, like wondering, at what point can you not go back? So, all those posts that I've made and things that I've said months ago, they're starting to happen to some of you. So, I'm sorry for that, but at the same time, it's what you signed up for. So, thanks for coming back to sit every week. And it's tough, but it's up. It's difficult, but you can see clearly that over the last half year, you've had unbelievable transformation. And don't attribute it to me. It's the fact that you've been more consistent with practice. You've taken meditation up as you've done it. You've done the work. A few of you, actually all of you, you've all just meditated a lot, really. If you take up just the hours from the sits in this class, and if you count the hours outside of that, it's a lot. So, I'm proud of all of you for coming every week and for being dedicated to your practice. All right, so the 2-hour seminar is over, I think.
Thanks, everyone. See you next
All right.
week.
All right, see all of you tomorrow.
See you
or
tomorrow.
Oh,
later
tomorrow. Yeah,
later
see you
at
guys
5.
tomorrow. Yeah,
All
see you
right.
tomorrow.
Thank you,
Have a
Ryan.
good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ryan. See ya.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Paul.
Bye. Bye, Ryan.
Oh, Paul, are you still here?
Yeah.
I think everyone's gone. Dude, your voice is really good.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't know that you could like actually for real sing.
Yeah. Well, it's a fear of mine.
But yeah, I listened to your song. I was like, wow, like Paul can actually sing. This is amazing. It sounds good. So let's go do karaoke.
That's horrifying.
No, we'll just do like a small karaoke bar, or not. I
Okay.
mean, have you ever been to them? They like put you in a small room
Yeah, I have.
with like 5 people,
I just don't sing, but I've.
or you just come with your friends. So let's just do that. It's not like you're singing in front of a crowd, you know. It's just like Ricardo, I, and like one other person or something.
Okay.
You're like, I hate this.
I don't hate it, but like now I gotta start rehearsing again. Start doing my scales, my
It's
breathing.
fine. It's fine, man. It's karaoke. We're all supposed to like. I'm gonna suck way more than you and Ricardo, but Ricardo's gonna sing Black. I know he's gonna sing Black because he loves that song by Pearl Jam.
Oh, really?
He's gonna be like, "Why?" Because there's a part of the song where he says that. So
I don't know if I remember that. I really like Pearl Jam.
yeah, I can
If
see
I'm
why.
brave, I'll sing Creep, but I don't know if I will.
Do you have work today?
Yeah. Yep.
In like
today.
an hour?
No. It's in the evening. I have to be there at like 3:30. Or are you stuffed up?
I don't know. Maybe there's just dust in this room.
So what are you doing to these people?
What do you mean? What am I doing to them? You can hear it in their voices. They're
Well,
like,
you told me
they're
that
like,
one guy like broke down,
yeah.
but I wonder if he realized like you had them do like the Brahma Vihara that's on like suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he did. He was successful. I don't know if he realized that he was actually successful. It just didn't.
Oh, I told him that.
yeah.
I
It just didn't
yeah,
happen in the way he thought it would.
Right. Exactly.
Like he just had a
Exactly.
big outflow at the end, which is still counts.
Yeah. Because the object is suffering. So
Yeah. But he kind of reminds me of like what happened when I was listening to Jed McKenna. Like all these illusions I had kept getting shattered. So I would just like randomly burst into tears. It didn't make me feel depressed. It was just like a shock to the system.
wow.
It actually felt
It sh-
good, but it still made me sad.
it shocked you out of New Ageism, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But I have an interesting thing that's happening to me. You say that the self becomes, you kind of dissolve the self and all that. I'm having like the opposite experience. Like when I'm sitting, when I go into that meanness or the rigpa or whatever, that they call it the heart in the Tantra. Their definition of the heart is not the same. For them, the heart is your essence, it's your center. It's not necessarily the actual heart. It can even be like the central channel, but it's like your core. So that when they say your heart, they mean awareness of awareness.
Yeah. Ramana calls awareness the heart.
Yeah, because that's like the tantric Hindu. But I feel more like me. It feels like an essential me. So and maybe that will go away, maybe that will dissolve. But like the more I do that, it doesn't feel like not me. It feels more like me.
Would you say that you're becoming more you, or you're just noticing more you?
It's yeah, I don't know if it's becoming more me, but it feels
Right.
like as me as it can possibly be.
Right.
Like it feels like the most essential pre-conditioned me.
Hmm.
So the feeling of it is like a me that is like, I forgot that was there.
Right.
So, but I don't have the dissolving of, maybe I've had other illusions dissolved already. So I don't like associate with those anymore. But I'm sure, I don't know, that I'm not, maybe I'm not as far along to like have a self dissolve. Because it literally feels like it's more solidly becoming me. It's more not becoming, but like more like awareness of me.
Hmm. So when you say me, is that like is that the same thing as a silent observer? It just feels just like
Yeah.
the word me comes out of it.
Yeah, it feel
Okay.
well. That's the way I can describe it. When I
Right.
sit in awareness, it feels like me, and it feels like joy. It's like a joy and a lightness to it, and it feels like the most essential version of me.
Mm.
And it's like a joy of just living. It's a joy of being alive. It's a joy of experiencing.
Yeah. So Nisargadatta calls that the I am, and he also calls it the Atman.
Uh-huh.
So this is actually
Was God.
well, it depends on who's talking, right? But the Atman is like the soul. The Atman is the soul. It's considered the
Okay.
soul, the heart, right?
Okay.
And the Atman, enlightenment happens when the Atman realizes its true nature, which is Brahman, the absolute, the everything, right?
Mhm.
It's like the drop
But when it comes
dissolving into
to
the ocean.
non-duality.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So Nisargadatta, how he taught it was for his students to just continue to notice I amness.
Mhm.
And that was just the main practice. And eventually that that deeper absolute, or that more fundamental nature begins to emerge. So I mean, it's already there, but it's the awareness attaches itself to the sense of me. That's just my personal experience with it. But I did hear from a tantric practitioner that, like, from her experience in tantra on Clubhouse, I mean, she was teaching on Clubhouse. She was saying that her sense of me is expanded to encompass the entire world.
Yeah, that's
Or
what I've
like
been learning about Tantra too. Like there is your meanness can expand to non-duality.
yeah,
As opposed
exactly. So
to disappear, like another, like a more Buddhist version.
yeah, 100%. So this meanness is expanded and identified with everything. So everything feels like me, like touching this feels like me.
So it becomes
But
becomes the big self.
yeah. So like when I went through that, I didn't have like the shift was very slight. It was so subtle. It was one day I was sitting, and then this thought came to the mind that said, this thought, and then this turning inward, and it became clear that the presence itself, the meanness itself, was empty. Like it wasn't actually a tangible thing. So it was just these words, presence is empty. And when that happened, that bubble of me popped.
Yeah, I have a sense of that, but I don't. It's not like, because I'll ask myself sometimes, like, where am I? And I ask myself, what am I?
Yep.
And because I ask myself, who am I? But actually, like, trying to ask where and what am I? It's like I can never find it. Like I
Yeah.
know I'm it, but I can't like dig through it or find anything in it. But it doesn't make me shatter my, hasn't made me dissolve, at least not yet. Hasn't made me like dissolve the stories, or like you were talking to David about losing the narratives.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's done that. It doesn't feel like it's done that.
Right. So
I'm-
so at some point the bubble, at some point, when I say the bubble pops, the bubble is realized as never having existed as a solid, real, and permanent thing.
So when you say that,
So
you're empty, you meant it's almost like you realize that you don't exist.
no, it's not that it's for sure it's that the Ryan that was the me-ness that was perceived as permanent was realized as being empty.
And what does empty mean for you?
No, it's without content and without boundary. No discernible qualities. Like you were saying, I've never found the me,
Mhm.
right?
But I've noticed that, but it doesn't make me like disappear or expand into non-duality. It doesn't make me. So I'm curious. You must have a different association with that. Like it has a deeper meaning. The fact that it's empty means something to you. That emptiness means that it's not real, or that it's not the thing. There's something else.
Oh, that's what it was. The emptiness just meant that nothing was there,
Uh-huh.
right? And so
When before you thought there was.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But that insight became very clear. Like I'd always heard of anatta, or like no self or whatever.
Mhm.
But I didn't have, it's kind of like the presence and the meanness was this very strong spotlight, like going like this and expanding, and like in all of those heightened phases of non-duality, everything felt, it still happens, but now I just don't have the thought me that comes up. But everything was just perceived as being Ryan or being me. And then that like very strong light, for some reason one day, this, it was like a transmission or something. It just said presence was empty, and all of that light that was going out this way went in, and it was like and it didn't, there was nothing that, there was no center that it made contact with.
Uh-huh.
It was just empty. Just like totally empty, like no content, nothing. So maybe because there's still thoughts that arise and there's still a lot of content that's running, the sense of me is like propped up. It's affiliated with all that content. But if the content was to disappear and there's just that empty presence and stillness, I can easily see how that would be, that could be the bubble popping. And that's why they teach, like they actually do many teachers do the introduction to Rigpa, like after mastery of awareness.
Yeah.
Because
So
awareness of awareness is still dual.
Yeah.
It's still dual.
Yeah. Me versus not me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when that like awareness of awareness is the most fundamental duality. Like as far as duality is concerned, that's as fundamental as it gets. And then pop. And then there's just awareness alone. Yeah. So right now, like you do the third exercise and there's just content, and the mind is associated with the content. So the awareness, the shining awareness alone isn't perceptible because there's too many clouds in the sky still. But if there were no clouds,
Well, what?
The awareness, the alone awareness wouldn't have, there wouldn't be any formations that would arise that could, I don't even want to say it attaches itself to it, because I don't think that's what happens, but if there wasn't any content, you wouldn't have, there wouldn't be anything to hold on to.
What do you
That
mean
you
by
could also thoughts.
so so shamatha?
Yeah.
So by the time you had that realization, you had a very still mind.
Oh yeah. 100%.
That's still not happening for me. I definitely doing this shamatha practice. It makes my mind quieter and also makes me not care if my mind drifts.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I've been noticing like I don't really care. Before I'd be like, God, get back here.
Oh, but one other thing too is that with the first exercise, of just observing and like noticing thought,
Mm-hmm.
the like that the benefit of that is that you notice arising and passing thoughts, but also this quiet meanness, this quiet center becomes more prominent. So I think actually for certainly when that quiet center, that quiet I amness that is ever present, when there's a kind of maturation with that, it empties out into Brahman and non-duality starts to happen. So it's like initially the I amness is attached to all the thoughts and all the content. And once that attachment and once all those structures begin to dissolve, this I amness begins to recede back into its original nature, which is non-duality.
The first exercise was kind of hard because all the attention kept coming back to awareness of awareness.
Oh, that's naturally where you're gravitating to then.
On all of them, actually, it kept going back to awareness of awareness. Kept
Maybe
wanting
it's like oh, I'm seeing it. It's dawning. Okay, so awareness of awareness is like this. It's like a bubble, and then the bubble just gets larger and larger and larger and larger and larger and larger and more immaculate. This I amness becomes larger and larger and larger, and then it can't contain itself anymore, and then pop. That's what happens.
So it's like bubble gum.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's why there's a sense that like you're more me. Like that's even more prominent.
Yeah, it feels
So,
like more than I was before.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, so the bubble will just boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, but I feel like that doesn't seem to be happening that way for David. Other people they have like a different, like a shedding or like a maybe they have a different concept of me than I do.
Yeah, and it could happen differently for different people, of course. So
Yeah, I think it does. Also, he's in a different phase of his life.
yeah, David's like 50 something.
Maybe illusions fade easier or quicker for him. Like, I don't know, maybe, he's achieved certain goals already. So he's in a different phase of his life. Or he's just a different person.
He's also going through grief as well. So
Yeah.
like he shared in another class or previously that his mom passed away.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So and I did all the chanting, the funeral chanting for it actually.
Huh. That's intense.
Yeah. His mom was old, but it's still hard,
Hard.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that strong of a connection with my mom, but if she died, it would still be pretty intense.
Yeah, of course.
Have you heard the Recognition Sutras?
The Recognition Sutras. What is this?
it's from the Shiva Tantra sort of canon. So I don't know if it's really a canon, but it's just a set of sutras about recognizing non-duality. It's supposed to be. It was a student of Abdomen Gupta, whatever, one of his really top students who wrote this really clear and concise thing called the Recognition Sutras. I just
It's
started.
good.
I just started, so I'm not sure, because he kind of gives. It's the same dude who wrote Tantra Illuminated, but he gives like pre-frame first for the philosophy of Tantra and how it relates to sutras. So I haven't even got to the sutras yet. I'm still reading his pre-frame or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I don't
All the
see much
reviews
of
are
a difference.
incredible. This is amazing. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever read. I read it multiple times every day.
Wow.
So it either like really traps people and keeps them stuck with some identity, or it's really helpful for them. I was wondering if you heard of it before. Recognition. It's a recent translation. That's why, because he knows proper Sanskrit. Most people don't.
All right.
And so there's not that much of it translated from Sanskrit. Also, when the Muslims came and took over Kashmir, they destroyed so much of the texts.
Damn.
But then when British took over and had a Hindu leader, they made a lot of them organized into proper Sanskrit. Like they took them off of the old birch tablet things and made them like in actual books. But
Yeah, I didn't know.
From
I didn't.
Sanskrit to English.
Yep. Yeah, even in Theravada, the English translated the Pali Canon before the Thais did.
Crazy.
Yeah, like 60 years before the Thais did.
So there's some people that are doing it, but not a lot.
Recognition Sutras this is probably very Dzogchen, very Vedanta. Would not be surprised at all. The only difference I see between Dzogchen, Mahamudra, and Vedanta is Dzogchen, Mahamudra, and the Buddhist traditions don't use the word self. That's it. I don't see much of a difference beyond that. Like the Vedantists will attribute it to an absolute intelligence, and the Buddhists will
like
just
the Vedas,
attribute it.
An undual aspect of the Vedas.
Yeah, the Upanishads, exactly.
And with Mahamudra and Dzogchen, that comes out of the Tantra lineage, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a certain specific type of non-dual Tantra called Kaula, but there's a specific type of Kaula that I think is either related to Mahamudra and Dzogchen, or they have like a similar core. I forgot the name.
Yeah, they do. The Mahamudra traditions, so like, for example, like Kagyu, they're how it is structured is that the basis for their philosophy and all of the initial
We're still recording
practices.
this, by the way.
Oh crap! I'm still recording this. Oh shoot!
Yeah,
Damn it!
you're gonna have to edit it.